The argument I'm making is this victory is not freeing Palestine. It's not stopping the anti-Semitism laws. So we cannot use this as a tranquilizing drug the way a lot of people are. Palestinians are being slaughtered.
Sure.
And people are celebrating a fucking electoral victory. What I'm saying is, even though this is a great moral victory against Zionism, moral victories is not saving Palestine. It's not saving Palestinians. Anti-Semitism laws are still being put on the books, and they will be put on the books whether Mamdani wins or lose.
Hey, listen, Joe Brown. I need you to just say, yeah, I agree with this, please, man.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Please, I need somebody there because no one's gonna back me up.
Right.
So for our last segment, we're gonna do we got one more quick segment we will do before we wrap up here. I want to give you guys thoughts on this because Democrats are about to do potentially the funniest shit of all time, and I wish these motherfuckers would. You guys give me your thoughts on Mamdani as well if you guys want. I already pissed a lot of people off. It's just already hilarious. And like I already see like a lot of people like there's like a lot of Mamdani people upset at me. And I'm like, guys, it's not my first rodeo. This is not my first. I've been through this before. Like people was upset with me with John Fetterman. Remember that? Like, bro, I was damn near canceled on the left for calling out John Fetterman. We're gonna go through the same damn shit again. You guys think he's gonna lower New York prices, but he's gonna fucking create an anti-Semitism task force instead. We'll just wait. But anyway, the point is, I explained that Mamdani winning the New York race was the best thing that could possibly happen to the Democratic Party. If the Democratic Party threw its entire way to defeat Mamdani, that would have been horrific. We explained, I think it was like probably last month on Post Duopoly, bro. The entirety of the progressive bread tube. They was all in on Mamdani. They drew the audience all in on Mamdani. Can you imagine how much money they made? You had Hassan interviewing Mamdani. Bro, they was making big content off of Mamdani. You know what I mean? So you had the entire progressive media apparatus rallying behind the Democratic Party. So if they lost, you guys lost Corey Bush, Nina Turner lost, Jamal Bowman. Bro, this was the race they needed to justify the project, fam. So if Mamdani lost, that would have been the final blow to the Sam Theater progressive pitch. They needed the establishment needed to give the progressives a bone. If you're one of the people who are wondering why Mamdani was allowed to win, but with that said, I'm not one of those people who's stupid who believe the establishment like this perfectly coordinated dragon, because I believe when you look at the part of the swamp who supported Mamdani, they made the calculation that they understood it. Hey, man, it's better for us to fall behind, get Mamdani and progressives at least a little bit of a win so they can't completely leave the party. Then you got dumb fucks like the governor, this New York governor guy. What is that fucking name? David Patterson?
Yeah.
Who essentially wrote this letter. And I'm sorry I went a little bit long there, but I want you guys' reaction to this, and you guys can get your thoughts on Mamdani if you guys want. What they essentially said, this letter in nutshell says the Democratic Party has to do whatever they can to stop Mamdani because he's a critical threat to the city and to the party at large. There's a lot of Trump derangement syndrome mixed in there as well. They mentioned that we need someone to stand up against the threat of Trump, but we can't have this crazy, radical. He's a liberal Zionist. I'm sorry. I'm going to spare the Mamdani people. He's a liberal Zionist, but they think he's fucking the next leader of Hamas, bro. They talk about this motherfucker like he's Sinwar.
No, he's not, man. I've seen this before here in Chicago, man. I've seen people like Mamdani before here in Chicago, and you know what? It's nothing more than false hope. Everyone just, if he does do anything, fine, but prepare yourself for disappointment in New York City because your politics are very similar to Chicago politics. There might be some differences here and there. Our pizza's better. No offense, Keaton. I love you. You know, but I mean,
to be clear, I'm not mad. I said it before. He's not Jim Crow Joe. You know what I mean? I'm not mad at people in New York who support him because I don't believe in voting for lesser to evil. I don't think Mamdani's evil, but He didn't not supporting genocide. He's a mayor. He's not even voted on foreign policy. So, guys, to be clear, I'm not even mad at the New Yorkers who support him. I'm just sharing my thoughts. That's all. I'm sharing my thoughts as someone who not even who live in the city. But Kean, do you want to chime in? Any reaction to this?
Well, yeah. I mean, you mentioned right after he won, you mentioned that this was a big propaganda win, and it's a massive propaganda win. It's a seismic propaganda win, and I think people have to kind of understand that. And one way in which New York and Chicago differ, Kit, is that lots and lots and lots of Jews in New York. New York is the most Jewish city outside of Israel, any place in the world. And pro-Israel politics have dominated New York City as far back as there's been an Israeli state. And so for a guy who says Israel has the right to exist as a state of equal rights, not as a Jewish state, which is what Mamdani has said, to win the New York mayoral primary, that is a pretty massive propaganda win. I don't think that's something that we should dismiss. I think that is very important. And I think it's important to claim that victory, because I think movements, live on victories and die on failure. So I don't think we should run that into the ground. And I think the reason why Mamdani stayed firm on the idea that Israel can only exist as a state of equal rights and not as a Jewish state is because he knew that he was kind of riding the pro-Palestine movement into office. So that's a flex for the movement, that they basically got behind this guy and they kept this guy in line. This guy did not really waver when push came to shove. He tried. He's weasel. Look, he's a DSA guy, right? He tried. Like, when they asked him on TV, they said, so what do you think of Israel? He says, I think it has a right to exist. He wanted to stop there because he wanted to just take the easy way out. But then they pressed him. They say, as a Jewish state. And at that point, he knew, if I say yes as a Jewish state, the pro-Palestine people are going to abandon me and I'm going to lose. So he toed the line that the pro-Palestine people wanted. Like, that's kind of what you look for when you're talking about, okay, when you're measuring how much clout you have as a movement. And the fact that he won in New York City, which, like I said, Zionist politics dominate New York City. They dominate New York City. Andrew Yang was going to be the mayor. And then what happened? There was the violence in Palestine in May of 2021, a month before the primary. Yang comes out. He backs Israel. The progressives in his coalition get pissed off at him. So he comes out and he pays some lip service to Palestinian rights. And at that point, the Zionists in his coalition jump ship because he had this weird kind of left-right sort of coalition. And what happened? His support imploded. He was done. He didn't even make it past the first few rounds of the ranked choice. And so this issue of Palestine has been a death trap for New York politicians for as long as Israel has existed. So the fact that you got a guy there who does not believe that Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state, the fact that he won in New York City is not a small thing. That is not a small thing. Even if he himself turns out to be a massive disappointment, that's a separate calculation from, okay, if you're using the primary as a measuring tool to see, okay, what progress have you made as a movement? The fact that you put a guy in the Democratic nomination for mayor in New York with those politics, that is something no one could have seen that coming 3 years ago, much less 20 years ago.
And this shows the failure of AIPAC and shows how much Israel lost the opinion of the masses, because Democrats as a party, I forgot the exact number, but I think it's like plus 50, plus 60 in favor of the Palestinians.
Yeah, they're pro-Palestine now, yeah.
There's a weird way to ask the question, but I take it. So there's a lot of support for against the state of Israel now. The only reason, and I agree with you, Ken, this with what you said, I agree with the concept of this being a great victory, and I'm greatly enjoying the Zionist meltdown. Don't get me wrong, guys, but how many moral victories are we going to score against the Zionists? Like the argument I'm making is this victory is not freeing Palestine. It's not stopping the anti-Semitism laws. So we cannot use this as a tranquilizing drug the way a lot of people are. Because as people are celebrating Mamdani, oh, we did it, guys, we won. Palestinians are being slaughtered.
Sure.
And people are celebrating a fucking electoral victory. At the end of the day, even though it's a good, I'm not disagreeing with you, King.
No,
I'm not.
It's
not like what I'm saying is, even though this is a great moral victory against Zionism, moral victories is not saving Palestine. It's not saving Palestinians. Anti-Semitism laws are still being put on the books, and they will be put on the books whether Mamdani wins or lose. So I'm not trying to blackpill people who like Mamdani. I'm not trying to shit on you. I'm telling you that this is far, far away from the victory a lot of people making this out to be. In fact, this is like a small start of what we need to be at. You know what I mean? So once again, I'm not fighting your point.
No,
I understand there is a great moral victory to this. And I'm gonna show you guys one. But Kim, do you want to chime? I got one more.
Well, I'm not just framing it as a moral victory. I think like we interviewed Shama. I know you interviewed Shama the day after he won. I think we interviewed her 2 days after he won. She told us that she has seen a surge of interest in her campaign since the Mamdani win. That's great. And that's what you're looking for. Like I said, these movements thrive on wins and they die on losses. Sometimes you need a morale boost. So like a moral victory doesn't. Yes, if a moral victory stops at being a moral victory, then yes, that's useless. But if you use that morale boost to rally people into post-duopoly campaign, for example, our friend Jose Vega, who ran against Richie Torres as an independent, he got 2.5% in the polls in 2024. I believe that was the highest scoring third-party major candidate for national office anywhere. I don't think any other independent candidate got over 2 points in the last cycle. Don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, he outperformed all the other independents. The fact that, like I said, a guy who does not believe in Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state, the fact that he won in New York City is going to give people, it's going to force people to take a candidate like Jose, who's outside the duopoly, another anti-Zionist outside the duopoly candidate. It's going to force them to take him more seriously because now it's been proven that the Zionist machine can be toppled in New York City. So these moral victories can beget greater, more substantive victories. And the last thing I would say too is, Mamdani, because he's basically a woke social democrat lib, I don't really know what he means when he talks about the hate crime shit. So you got to be, that's a huge red flag, obviously, because that could mean anti-Semitism laws. It could mean you're not allowed to look at a trans person sideways. You don't really know what the hell he's talking about. He's going to have to specify that. And I think the movement should hold him accountable for, like, they should get him nailed down on that. What do you mean? Are you going to adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Association definition of anti-Semitism? Because Adams has already done that. Cuomo is promising to continue that as mayor, which greatly restricts the ability of pro-Palestine people to organize in New York. It does. Like you're talking about essentially criminalizing anti-Israel speech under Adams or Mamdani or Cuomo. And so if Mamdani's going to lay off that shit, then that does give the pro-Palestine protesters at these campuses room to operate to the point where they can push for divestment from Israel. So that has an effect, potentially. Yeah, these things are very, very small victories, but I think the key is to use these victories not as tranquilizing drugs, but as rallying cries to win bigger victories. And I think the Mamdani win in the primary has potential for that. Does it have potential to go sideways and turn into another AOC? Absolutely it does. And that's why I'm not telling people go out and knock on doors and donate and shit like that. But I'm also cautioning people against being too black-pilled about it, because we've seen Shama say that she's had interest generated off of this. I'm sure Jose has had interest generated off of this. And I do think it can be a stepping stone to doing bigger things. And I think we should not poo-poo that too much, even though, like I said, and I'm not pushing back on you. I agree with what you're saying too, that there's going to be a subset of people who use this as a tranquilizing drug, and yeah, obviously we have to guard against that.
I'm gonna show you guys this, because this is the good part about him winning, and the fact that we get the clips. like these people these Zionists are having a complete meltdown, and I'm greatly enjoying it.
I think Jews should be fearful of Mamdani. Yes. They're terrified. I've never felt like, wow, I may need to leave New York.
No, you don't need to leave New York. Get out of here.
Sold. That's it. Like, the more the Zionists shit their pants over this guy, the more I want him to win. It's that simple. It's that simple.
And I can see I can see that. That's the most base fucking thing a mayor can possibly pull off is to get the Zionists to flee.
Well, you
Like,
saw Betar.
Yeah, that'd be the most radical thing a mayor have ever done.
You saw Betar when you guys all know what Betar is. They're the thugs who go around putting the beepers in the pro-Palestine protesters' pockets. You know, the trolls.
Yeah. God,
they
man.
go around New York terrorizing pro-Palestine protesters, and that's literally what they're doing. If a pro-Palestine person made that kind of threat against a Zionist, they would call that person a terrorist. So that's what these Betar people are. They go around the city terrorizing people. They are currently emboldened to do that. The cops don't give them shit about it. Eric Adams isn't going to do shit about it. Andrew Cuomo's not going to do shit about it. When Mamdani wins, they're saying, we need to get out of New York City. Like, we can't just pretend that that's not a real difference. There's a major difference between these Zionist thugs feeling emboldened to terrorize protesters and saying, you know what? Like this guy's saying, it's time we pack up and leave town.
This guy will put Zionists behind bars. Once again, they talking about him like he's Sinwar.
No, what he's going to do is going to create the political police with Commissariat Hans and his deputy Fritz knocking on the doors.
Yeah. So once again, I hope you're right, Keaton. I don't think he's Jim Crow Joe. He's not evil or anything like that. I'm looking at other alternatives. I'm looking at the Marina Party in Mexico. A movement that said fuck neoliberalism, fuck working with neoliberalism, and building a third party. But seeing Zionists like that in shambles, that's definitely a win.